Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. This is my first time in Madrid, and you set the standard very high. I mean, literally 14 floors up, staring over Madrid, looking at all the people down there. And I wonder if we walked down there and asked them what a geologist was, what would they say? It's a curious thing. And can I ask, how many people in the audience would say they're a geologist? Who are geologists? But there must be some people who are normal. Who are the normal people? Okay, so there are some normal people. And I guess this is my point, really, is the disconnect we have between geology and these people here. The infamiliarity of geology, the anonymity, the invisibility of geology amongst the public. And until recently, that's not really been too much of a problem, because geologists are really good at finding things. We find metals, that, we find the energy, we find the stuff that keeps the modern world going. But it's been alluded to several times, there are real challenges ahead in terms of the next 20, 30, 40 years with climate change, with resource issues, with water management, with natural disasters. And in each of those categories, probably the biggest issues we have, geoscientists, earth scientists, geologists, whatever you want to call us, are going to be critical. And yet, most people out there have never heard of us. And so we have a real problem in trying to convey what it is that we do. So that's what I think about a lot. How do we communicate who we are and what we do to those other audiences that don't encounter us? So I was going to show a clip now of one of the programs, and I'll tell you what I think are the 5 big kind of clues or ways to key elements, I guess, for communication. Interestingly, I could have done it with a clip earlier on, the one we saw, which was beautiful, and actually has got some of the same elements. But let me show you this one.
The discovery of Africa's deepest origins started with Livingstone's fateful expedition 150 years ago. As he made his way down the Zambezi River, Livingstone found his progress suddenly interrupted by a strange sight. A huge curtain of mist rising up from the river ahead, accompanied by a steadily increasing roar. Leaving his team behind for fear of putting them in danger, the explorer continued his journey on foot, only to find his way blocked by the most impenetrable of all obstacles. Known to the locals as Otro, the smoke that thunders.
We of course know it as the Victoria Falls.
And the ultimate way to experience the falls involves getting your feet wet. Around me cascades down more than 100 meters below. This pool forms a hidden sanctuary.
So that's clearly not something that a normal person should do. But I suspect most people in this room would really want to do it. If you've not already done it, actually this is a pretty common thing. Some people may have done it. But I think in terms of the main elements that I think are in there, I think the first one that's kind of most important is about the wonder of the planet. About we live in the most amazing place, and there are places like this on Earth that you can go to and you can experience. And I think as we get close to the technical detail of geology, the minutiae, we forget why we got into it, the passion of the amazing planet that we live in. John McPhee, the writer, talked about the spaces between the facts being filled with the geopoetry. And I think sometimes in communicating geology we forget the geopoetry. We think of the facts. And this number two is to forget the facts. That's not to say that facts aren't important. In the age of fake news, we're very worried about this. But the point is that facts aren't very interesting on their own. But put facts into an interesting story, a strong narrative, and they become very interesting. And people remember the story. And to tell the story, they have to remember at least a fair number of the facts. So we need to spend more time thinking of the stories and narratives that we tell, into which our facts go, rather than telling people about facts and information. We are fixated by facts and information. And that brings me to my third element, and that is around a culture change that we need to make from matters of fact, from thinking that our job as experts, technical experts, is to communicating matters of facts to the public, to these people down here. And rather we need to communicate about matters of concern, things that they're actually worried about, concerned about, anxious about, that are affecting their daily lives. The so what question you get if you talk to people and say, what's this got to do with me? Why are you telling me this? We often start with what we want to communicate, our message, forgetting what it is that they're actually interested in. And we need to switch that around. And that's what television spends most of its time thinking about who its audience is. And the fourth one, excuse me, the fourth one is that it's about people, actually. That those people like people, you like people, we like people. That actual people tend to be, that scientists are interested in things and ideas. That marks it out as being rather mentally unusual. Most people are interested in other people, and they're mostly not interested in anything else. So telling stories that have got people in them, in this case the explorer David Livingstone, it becomes really important to relate to people. Now geology's got a problem there. If you go back to the Archean, there's not many people around. But we do have interesting characters and interesting stories about people who have been doing it. Which brings me to my last one and the most important one. And the fifth one is, it's about us. That when we're in science, we don't matter. Data gets magically collected, we write papers talking about this, reports where the investigator doesn't count. But for communication it does count. The person that's doing the work needs to communicate it. And needs to communicate it with passion and enthusiasm. So that you become the gateway, the portal into your science. Because people like people, they buy into people. And the thing about geologists is that we're not normal, and that makes us really interesting. We climb mountains, for the normal people in the room, we climb mountains. When we get to the top, we take a hammer out, we hit a rock off, we put it into a suitcase, we clamber back down the mountain, we crush it in the machine, we turn it into powder, we put it in the machine and we get a number out. That's not normal, but it is amazing. And so I think that that's what we need to capture, is why we do what we do. And the most important thing is, if we're going to deliver on the challenges of the Sustainable Development Goals, Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Climate Paris Agreement, we're going to need people out there to understand that we understand the planet, but we also understand them as well, and that's going to be critically important. Thank you very much.